How will the world change with an independent Scotland? For the remainder of the United Kingdom, the change will be minimal. A name change, kinda, is likely. Having just lost half of Great Britain, the Great Britain part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland would have to go, resulting in the United Kingdom of England, Wales and Northern Ireland. Presumably, we will continue to call this country, imaginatively, the United Kingdom. The UK would retain the current rank as the world's 8th largest economy, sorry Brazil, and as the successor nation after disunion would remain a member of the European Union with the current opt-outs and a member of NATO, and she would retain her current de facto status as capital of the British Commonwealth. Furthermore, in the same way as Russia replaced the Soviet Union as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, so too would the new UK, and of course she would continue to boast a military backed by humanity's ultimate weapon. The UK could, in principle, retain the Union Jack as its national flag. However, out of respect for its new neighbour, the reference to Scotland could be removed, making this possibly one of the few truly noticeable changes for your average citizen. Other countries that use the Union Jack as part of their flag could also opt to take this opportunity to change. Scotland, however, would be an entirely new nation, not a signatory to a single international treaty. It would likely have no difficulty joining the vast majority of international clubs, such as NATO and the United Nations, and sign treaties, such as the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, as a non-nuclear state, of course. What we do know is the Scottish independence movement is not a Republican movement, and Queen Elizabeth will be Scotland's head of state after separation. The currency question has dominated the independence debate. A new Scotland would have essentially three choices: retaining the current pound, creating an entirely new currency, or joining the Eurozone. Westminster has rejected the proposal of a formal currency union. Therefore, unless London backs down, retaining the pound without a currency union would put Scotland under considerable financial pressure and place the banking sector at jeopardy, as Edinburgh would have no control over the monetary policy affecting their economy. A new currency would result in higher interest rates for national debt until the lending market gained confidence in Scotland's ability to repay its loans. Joining the Eurozone, therefore, might be the least worst option. However, the currency union is unpopular with voters. These will certainly be some hard choices for a newly independent Scotland. The uncertainty surrounding the currency situation has already resulted in a weaker pound, making holidaying in the UK cheaper. This might continue if Scotland gains independence. However, on the flip side, exports from Scotland could become more expensive. An independent Scotland's place in the European Union is another unknown. Scotland would have to apply for membership in the Confederation. This would require the unanimous approval of the 28 member states, some of which have independent movements of their own to contend with. Most notably, Spain has signalled that it opposes Scotland's independence, fearing a strengthening in the Catalan independence movement. As a unanimous vote will be needed for Scotland to join, it may be necessary to make a deal with the Spanish. Scotland, however, does have a lot to offer the European Union. Beyond Scotland's oil reserves, Scotland's membership in the EU opens its waters to European fishing fleets, and many European leaders are opposed to the idea of over 5 million European citizens losing that status. European citizens are allowed to live and work anywhere within Europe. With Scottish independence, some Britons working in the EU could potentially become Scottish citizens overnight. If Scotland isn't a member of the EU on Independence Day, these people will in principle lose their right to live and work in Europe. In practice, they will either have to apply for working visas or remain citizens of the United Kingdom. On top of this, the Scottish National Party proposes an independent Scotland would have a more relaxed approach to immigration than the current UK government. For individuals throughout the world with Scottish ancestry, it may become easier to gain Scottish citizenship and relocate to Scotland. And if Scotland is part of the EU, these people too will gain the right to live and work throughout Europe. We will soon discover what the Scottish people decide. But one thing is already clear: this referendum will be touted as a great example of the principle of self-determination, unlike some other referendums that have taken place in Europe in recent history.